How important is it to share with other people how much you're drinking and what your problems are with alcohol? If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you're returning, welcome back. Thank you so much for subscribing. It's great to see you guys. So I want to talk a little bit about some comments that I've heard lately, some issues that I've heard about people not having people in their lives that they share their details about their alcohol use with. Some people share that they don't have anybody to share that information with. Some people talk about that it's just they hide their drinking, they're ashamed of it. There's a pride factor. And all these things lead me to think that, man, this is worth a video about. It's worth talking about. So I'm going to open up a little bit about where I came from with my drinking, what I've learned over the years as far as myself goes, but also hearing from other people just how important it is to be able to talk about our alcohol use and just be honest with how much we're drinking. When I quit drinking, I noticed right away that I was able to talk to my wife. I was able to talk to my therapist. I was able to open up to my sobriety group. I was able to do all these things, but it didn't come naturally. It took some time. It actually took a few years for me to get to a point where I was like, you know what? I need to be honest with not just myself, but I need to be honest with someone. I need to be able to open up. I need to be able to trust that they're not going to judge me. I need to be able to open up and talk about this. So that was really the first and foremost foundation of my success in sobriety. My long-term success is being open about it. Now, I started talking to my wife about just how much I was drinking in 2016. I was off of work. I was out of work, actually laid off. So, and I was looking for work for close to a year. And within that year, I was going through so many things that it was just something that I was drinking to kind of help calm that down. We had one of our children going through a mental health crisis. We had, like I said, I was out of work, and my wife was going back to school to get a degree so that she could get a different job. And all these things were happening, and I wasn't communicating things well, and I was isolating more, and I was drinking more to kind of cope with it. And that was a problem. But as these emotions and all these thoughts and feelings would build up, they all came out, and I would just open up to my wife about it. And it wasn't comfortable. It wasn't something that I liked doing. But what it did was it created a culture of openness, a culture that of building relationships. So it wasn't just good for me; it was actually good for her as well. And we can grow, and we can keep an open dialogue and go from there. If you don't have a spouse, or if you don't have a significant other in your life, maybe you have a brother or sister, maybe you have a best friend, maybe you have somebody that you can share your true amounts of alcohol, your true feelings about your relationship with alcohol with in your day-to-day life, aside from a sober group. But having both of those is really helpful. Uh, like I said, this was 2016. I struggled for another 3 to 4 years with my drinking, and I didn't. Eventually, I didn't quit until 2020. But when I did quit, um, I knew that community was going to be key to this, and being honest about my alcohol use. We live in a society where I don't think most people are honest about how much they drink. They're if you go to the doctor's office and they have that little questionnaire there, it might ask you how many days a week you drink, if you drink socially. And most people, I think, put on, zero, or they lie. They might say socially, or they might just say 2 to 3 drinks a day or whatever. But in reality, it's 3 times more that, or it's not socially. It's in isolation. It's a problem. Alcohol could be a problem. And I've had a lot of comments, and luckily not a high percentage, but I've had a number of comments since one of my videos started taking off a few weeks ago, saying that I wasn't an alcoholic per se. It was more like I just had a abusive relationship with alcohol. I abused it. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but man, when I tried to quit drinking and I couldn't do it, and I didn't want to do it, I just chose to stay in that cycle. I knew that it was a problem for me, and that started when I was in my 20s, and it went into my 30s and then into my early 40s. I just didn't want a different way of life. I didn't want a better way of life. Something in me felt like I wallowed in that misery, and I was used to it. So I just wanted to stay in it. And, I felt like I deserved that punishment. I felt like I deserved what I got. But at the same time, I didn't know, that there was a better way. I didn't realize that until I quit drinking and had a few weeks to a few months sober, that my issue was that I knew that it was going to take work to fix what was broken within me. And that was scary, because trying to fix almost 3 decades of drinking, but then also 3 decades of buildup of problems and ruminations and anxieties and worries and poor choices and all these things that led me to where I was. I knew it was going to take time. It was going to take probably years to fix all that. And even though we can't go back in time and redo everything, and we have to be able to be okay with what we did in our past, leave it in the past, but start fresh, and start with being 100% alcohol free, because that was really the key to getting over it. No matter how much therapy I did, meditation I did, hiking I did, none of that helped me get better, because I was still drinking. And the key was to quit the alcohol and then do all that work. And that's what I did. And it took at least a good 6 months for me to start to feel the anger and the irritability dissipate. My skills started to get better at coping with life without that crutch. And that's really what it took. So let's get back to how do we stay sober. The thing is, you know, I wasn't able to just get on camera and talk about my sobriety. I've had a lot of people tell me that, man, that's awesome that you're sharing this. It takes courage to be on here and talk about your story and share this vulnerable stuff. And yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It is. It was. I mean, it's for me. I don't want to say it's easy. I mean, it is hard sometimes, especially there's a fine line with what you want to share, details, but then also you want to keep some anonymity. But for the most part, just being open and general with the problems that I had with alcohol, if we can share that with people, like I said, it's not just beneficial for us, it's beneficial for them as well. And if you're new to sobriety, by all means, the most important thing is to just stay sober, especially for that first couple months when you have big urges to drink. That's the biggest hurdle, just not drinking. But also being vulnerable and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and opening up to somebody. Like I said, it could be anybody in your day-to-day life that knows you well, somebody that that you can communicate with also with your sober group. It could be online or somewhere that you meet weekly in person. If you have a therapist, but therapy visits aren't daily, they aren't hourly, they're usually like weekly or bi-weekly. So you can't let all those urges and those issues build up and then try to get it all out at one time. You have to be able to talk through each urge one moment at a time. Once you're able to work through those urges one urge at a time, you'll see that you're stronger for the next urge. That's really what this is about, is building those muscles, those neural pathways that we had used and built up over years and learned how to just cope with life with alcohol. We are replacing that with this new way of life, but it takes one event after another to kind of build and cascade and use these tools to our advantage to be done with alcohol. And being 100% alcohol is the best decision I ever made in my life. Uh, to those people that might say that I wasn't an alcoholic, I don't use the term alcoholic to describe myself or anybody else for that matter. Um, there is a difference between physical dependency and having it be a mental thing. And I think that mine did fall more under mental. When I quit, I had about 6 weeks into the pandemic where I was drinking earlier and earlier every day. I was drinking more and more and throughout the day, and I worried that I was going to have uh, symptoms, withdrawal symptoms. It turned out I went a few days and I went a week, and I didn't have anything more than maybe a couple of occasions of nausea, of headache, and that was really when I started to realize that this was mental. I mean, it wasn't. I'm not physically addicted to it. I don't get the shakes. I need to go drink in the morning to get through those feelings. I'm not dependent on it in that way. But that didn't mean that I wasn't dependent on it. I became addicted to alcohol. I became addicted to the ritual of it. It became a crutch. It became my go-to thing to deal with every single aspect of my life. And as a result, alcohol bled into every single aspect of my life. So to the point where when I started to learn in sobriety that I needed to replace all those hours and those days of drinking with things that actually brought me joy, that's really when I started to realize that, man, I can do this. I started to walk my dogs more. I started to take hikes more. I started to spend more quality time with my daughter. And, but the foundation was I was able to open up and be honest to myself, to my therapist, and to my wife, and ultimately on my sober group, because my wife, she knows addiction to a certain extent. She's not one herself, so she doesn't necessarily understand what I'm going through, but the people on my group, they understand, and those are the people that I can rely on in tandem with my weekly therapy, in tandem with being able to talk to my wife. And sometimes if she's at work, I need to text her and say, look, I'm having this urge, or I'm having this stress, and I'm having this guilty feeling. I want to reach for a drink. I don't want to reach for a drink. And just being able to do that and say that out loud and have someone be able to check in on you, and have a group that encourages you, that gets it. Those are important. So if you found value in this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'd be forever grateful for you to come along with me on this journey. Hit the little notification bell to get my updates. I come out with a new video every Wednesday and Sunday. I do live streams on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I've got a Facebook group called Sobriety in the Storm. It's a private group. So if you're not necessarily comfortable sharing anything on this forum, you can go to that one, join there, and we can talk about this stuff there. So please, please, please consider any of those things. And I'm glad that you're here. Sobriety is possible, and a better life is possible. So have a great sober day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.